again, welcome back to our show. Today we talk about the Big Lebowski, which you can see here in my little 4K edition. This is one of those films that I've bought so many times now. I saw it in the cinema in the late 90s when it came out. Bizarre, I saw it on double bill with Blues Brothers 2000, another John Goodman film, which was less well received than this one. Although this one wasn't well received and released, it was viewed as a strange follow up to Fargo. Like, what were they thinking? Why couldn't you do a serious follow up to Fargo? Then eventually people started to recognise how good it was. But it was viewed as a film that was a disappointment when it first was released, and it was called anti-German because of all the nihilists and stuff, and it was like viewed as uncomfortable for some people for the German jokes. It's like, they're just jokes. So yeah, there's always been oversensitive people around. There's always someone who's going to complain about something to make themselves feel important. But anyway, this film was, yeah, you can see it's nice in 4K. 4K looks beautiful, by the way. It's one of those films that really early on became a grabber for people. It became a cult film, and then over the years, it's become a bigger and bigger film. And just when they first released it, was just viewed as a disappointment. But I think almost instantly. I mean, this released just for the same time as Starship Troopers, which is another cult film that almost instantly became cult and had his own little following, even though it was viewed as a disappointment. Both these films came out at the same time. Both had that same thing of never quite delivered what people expected when they first came out, but instantly people got the films. And I always got this film. This film was always great for me. It was always just a wonderful film. I instantly got it. Just perfect film. But it took people a while, actually. But it's not a film I watch all the time. I watch it every couple of years so that I can forget little bits and enjoy it again. I don't want to be watching it and knowing all the lines all the time and be able to say them before anyone says them. I want to give it space in my head and really enjoy it when I see it again. And it is like a Shaggy Dog story, which I think is one of the things the critics didn't like about it when it first came out. It was like, it's not like the most cohesive of the Coen Brothers films for plot. I mean, if you look at something like Miller's Crossing, which is a much more complicated plot, this one is based on a bunch of screw-ups of people, and like the plot could have been solved by a proper detective in about 2 minutes, but because it's been investigated by a bunch of idiots, it takes for 2 hours. It's that kind of thing. So the joke is it's a mystery film, though the mystery's kind of obvious, but people still can't figure it out, which I think people thought was patronising, but it was just the way certain people will interpret the world. It's just it's what the Coen Brothers like to do. I think they like the plots, but I think they like watching weird characters interact with those plots and seeing how they develop, so that they don't become. It's like the plot's mechanic in the beginning is just a setup, and then the characters kind of start leading the story a bit more. So an efficient lead character will make the plot fall apart pretty quick, but a character who is not as good as they think they are can add a lot of interesting things to it. So that's kind of Coen Brothers really kind of they've always kind of been, but they went that way a bit more as they went on. I mean, maybe even like Blood Simple when he was in Arizona, it's very character based. It's like the characters drive the plot rather than the. Because Blood Simple was based on a film noir set in the 80s, but it was based on very kind of complicated, flawed characters. And Raised in Arizona was obviously based on very flawed characters who kidnap children. It's like. The Coen Brothers like their weird characters. So the Big Lebowski, though, didn't have that energy. Big Lebowski didn't have the crazy energy of those other films. It has a laid-back energy. I mean, Jeff Bridges plays the dude, which is Jeff Lebowski, who's a stoner guy who's unemployed and bowls a lot in LA, and he is happy with his life. He's not really, he smokes weed, and he lives in unemployment and pays his rent, and he's happy as long as he can bowl. That's it. He can He doesn't need anything else. Just as long as he can go bowling, hang with his friends, he's fine. He doesn't really. He's not that motivated. He comes from the '60s, that kind of ethos of, what's the point of driving yourself crazy, working all the time? You know, I've just done Punishment Park video, and Punishment Park would hate this guy, but he probably wouldn't have been brought up because he's too lazy to do anything. I mean, you hear a bit of stuff about him in his younger days. He was a roadie and was also in his street protests. But you never get the sense he was probably the front runner. He was in the background somewhere. He wasn't the person who was really driving it. He was just there. But so he had a career, then now the career's kind of wound down, and he's okay with that. I mean, he's okay with most things in life as long as he gets to do what he wants to do. He doesn't really care. He lets people be themselves. He's very nice to other people. I mean, he doesn't judge anyone. He just lets them be who they are. But into his paradise of LA during the Gulf War, during that small time of Gulf War, it was meant by Gulf War, and then it didn't happen. He was that's what it says. So you've got the guy who runs a ball now that looks at Saddam Hussein, which leads to a really funny dream sequence later on. You've also got his buddies. Walter, played by John Goodman, who's a Vietnam vet, may not even served in Vietnam. We never know if he has or not. He's an ex-wife who he's still attached to in weird ways. He's turned Jewish, but he's taken a bit too far. Even though he's not actually Jewish, but he turned Jewish for his wife. She divorced him, but he kept religion. It's this weird character who's got a mix of neediness for his ex-wife and a hair-trigger temper about certain things, and he seems to know lots of weird people, and he's a fascinating character. Apparently, it was based a little on John Milius, not fully. Apparently, there was a lot of bits of John Milius and other people. The idea of someone who can talk and loves his guns and stuff, but it's obviously not John Milius because other things there as well. I don't think Coen's ever based anybody just on one person. I heard Lebowski's based on some roadie they knew as well, but it's not entirely that either. I think it's always based in different characters and they kind of get combined a little bit. You've also got a Donnie played by Steve Buscemi. It was quite funny because Buscemi at that point in his career used to play a lot of fast talking guys who wouldn't shut up, and in this one he barely says anything. Which is a really nice performance and is very different from what we're kind of used to from Steve Buscemi at the time. I mean, since then he's played a lot more quieter characters, so it's evened up now. So now it doesn't look as different as it did at the time, because at the time he really was playing. He was well known for Reservoir Dogs, and just he was kind of typecast slightly as a fast talker. The Coen Brothers had him in a couple of films where he talked really fast as well because he could do it, and most actors can't talk that fast. But they changed around this one. You've also got a couple of other Coen Brother regulars. You've got John Turturro as the this way over the top bowler, and who called to Jesus, and he's John Goodman thinks he's a sex offender. And you've also got Peter Stormare as the German nihilist who's also a porn star. And because the film before that's Fargo, Buscemi played a character who would never shut up, and Stormare was the guy who was really quiet, and Buscemi was driving him nuts. He was always talking, and all hell breaks loose in that film and this one. So you've got them, plus you get other actors coming into the Coen Brothers for the first time. You've got Philip Seymour Hoffman as the personification of Smithers from The Simpsons, as this toady for the other Lebowski, who's this blowhard Republican who's got lots of money, and whose problems are the thing that causes the problems for Jeff Bridges' character. You've got Julianne Moore as the artist Maud Lebowski, who is the person who actually has the money. And she's an arch feminist and very very confident in her own life and what she wants. You have David Thurston, a little part of this weird arty guy, video guy that Moore's pals with, who irritates Jeff Bridges a lot. You have John Polito turn up, one another Coen Brothers regular as a private eye. So you have all these people wandering around. You have Bren Gazzara showing up later on as a porn magnet. So you get weird characters. And I bring up all the characters because that's what it's about. It's about the interactions a bit. It's more about the three guys at the bowling alley talking, basically, Lebowski talking to Walter, and Buscemi's in the background and talking shut up all the time. You know, stuff like that is more important than the plot. The plot basically is the Republican Lebowski, he's got a trophy wife who owes money all over town. She's got some debts, so basically the people who are sent to get collected debts get the wrong name, and you go to Lebowski's to the dude's house, pees on his rug, which basically means they have to throw it out, and it really brought the room together apparently, which is a running gag throughout the film. Then he goes to the rich Lebowski, saying, "Look, this happened because of you," and he gets thrown out, but he steals another rug anyway. But then apparently the trophy base kidnapped. The dude is told to be the bagman. He's offered money to be the bagman, and then all hell breaks loose as money disappears. They have to try and track it down. They have to try and work out, was she actually kidnapped or wasn't she? And why are all these people trying to deal with this situation all really incompetent? And it's all about the weird interactions of people, and is the Republican Lebowski trustworthy at all? Is he pulling a scam? And it just becomes this thing of all these characters interacting, and the dude try to work it all out. And because he's high in weed most of the time, it takes him a long time to work out the plot. But the plot does work. It's very funny because it goes in directions you don't really expect a film. A more serious, self-serious film would not go in some of these directions this film goes in. It would not treat its main character so brutally. And with so little respect at times. But the character keeps on going on. The character keeps on going on with grace and humour, and he's very likeable, and he still just likes people, which is the charm of the film. He puts up with Walter, who's utterly insane for most of the film, and most people would just say to him, "What's up with you? What's up with you in Vietnam? What's going on?" Most people would just not deal with him, but the dude deals with him, and he's fine. He's fine with Don, he's fine with everybody. He gets his car stolen, and it leads to weird situations. He ends up getting arrested by the police in Malibu, he calls a bunch of fascists. He hates the Eagles. There's tons of weird little moments in this film that is just insane. Anything with Julianne Moore as a bizarre feminist is hilarious because it's just weird because she's really just so straight. It's the only way to play the character anyway, to be it straight. Like someone who doesn't know they're in a comedy. And there's lots of weird stuff that's going on. I say don't know in a comedy. The actress knows she's in a comedy, but the character doesn't. That's what it basically means. There's lots of weird situations. And that's the charm of the film. That's why people keep on watching it, because the film is not in a hurry to get to the ending. It'd much rather tune the fan to say, okay, what's going on here? Is this? And they start discussing it, and they end up getting really paranoid in ways that discussions with friends will get, and really stupid. And that's the charm of the film, is all these weird conversations, rather than how does it work out. And ultimately it's about the friendship between Walter and the dude, as well as Donnie. That's kind of the centre relationship that actually has the thematic depth at the end of the film. It's not about the plot. The plot's nice, but it's the plot's just there to set up. It's to make them do something, to get out of the bowling alley and interact and see a bit more of the world. It's not really, because they've hidden in the bowling alley for so long and they don't want to leave it. It's their little room, it's their little thing. And it's wonderful. I mean, the film is just wonderful. And it's one of Coen's best films in one way. I mean, it's a culty film and it's weird and strange. But in some ways, it can be. It's a bit. It's not one of my favourites. In other ways, like I'm really into like the Coen Brothers stuff of like Miller's Crossing and stuff. It's a bit darker, which is the kind of Coen Brothers stuff I prefer. But this is a really great film in a different way. But I mean, the downside of this film is it's almost overpraised because everyone loves it. So it's almost like it's a Coen Brothers film you have to love. It's like that's kind of annoying when you go that direction. And that's what some fans feel like sometimes. You have to love it, and it's like that would put me off. But because I was one of the people who first found it, was a fan of it from the off. I understand people love it, but it's also the kind of overdone fandom sometimes gets on my nerves. Same as Scarface, the same thing where it's like the overdone fandom is like annoying, even though I love the film. So I get why there's a love of the film, but it's annoying. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on much longer about this film. You've probably seen it already, most people watching this video. If not, go watch it. It is wonderful. It is deeply wonderful. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with some others.